Yeah, no, that's horrible. Oh my God. No. No. Hey beauties, welcome back to my channel. Today is the day of reckoning, the great fragrance declutter of 2024, and we are going to be savage. No, but I am incredibly excited for this. I recently shared my entire fragrance collection. Check out that video if you haven't watched it yet, but I went shelf by shelf. I showed you everything that I currently have, and I have a little over 300 full-size fragrances right now. It's a lot. It's too much. I don't want to repeat myself too much, but I personally find there to be far more cons than pros when you have such a huge collection. I think once you get up into the hundreds, it's kind of inevitable. You forget about your favorites, things get pushed to the back, and a lot of these fragrances end up just sitting on the shelf collecting dust anyhow. It's not as if I went through and carefully curated and handpicked all of these fragrances and purchased them myself. I would say more than half of these were sent to me complimentary by brands to review. I'm incredibly grateful for that, but what ends up happening is that you have a lot of good fragrances, but not necessarily great or your personal preference. My goal was to declutter 50 fragrances, and as motivated as I am because I really can't wait to reorganize, I found that to be a bit too ambitious. So I don't have 50 fragrances here yet. This will most likely end up becoming a two-parter, but I did go shelf by shelf. I made some hard edits, and today I am sharing the first slash. I have a feeling some of these picks are going to shock you, but first on the chopping block, I have two fragrances here from Fragrance du Bois. This is Siberian Rose and Heritage. And I just tried to convince myself that Heritage was not that bad, so I sprayed it and nearly choked myself. It's just not for me. This was sent to me complimentary with a bunch of other fragrances from the brand. Based off of the name, I'm assuming this represents the heritage of the brand, or that's the inspiration. It's just not the type of fragrance that I would ever wear. I would never choose this for myself. I didn't pick it out. I didn't request to review it. It was simply sent over as a gift. It smells very mature, a little bit green, very harsh, aldehydic. It's just not my style whatsoever, and I hate the thought of this sitting on the shelf collecting dust. Fragrance is so personal. I really don't want to use this video to bash any of these fragrances. It's not that they're awful fragrances. Somebody obviously loved them because they created them, but it's just not right for me. I don't even know the event, the occasion. There is no time, place in my life that I would ever go to wear a fragrance like this. So it just has to go. And then Siberian Rose. This is actually really nice. I like this fragrance, but it's a like, not a love. There are so many other rose fragrances in my collection that I love. It's one of my favorite notes, and yet Siberian Rose is just a little bit too intense. I find it to be a little bit harsh right away. And I know the beauty with fragrance is in the dry down, and I think once this dries down on the skin, it's really nice, but I really don't like to wait. If there's a fragrance that dries down really nice, but initially it's not very good, I'm never gonna grab a fragrance like that. I'm never going to spritz something on that I know I have to wait before I can enjoy it on the skin. So as much as I do really like and appreciate Siberian Rose, I just don't think there's a place for it in my collection anymore. Are you ready to be flabbergasted? I don't think you're ready for this. I have two fragrances here from Roja Parfums. This is Taif Oud, and this is Elixir. I know what you're thinking. What on earth are you talking about? You couldn't possibly be decluttering a bottle of Elixir, your favorite princessy perfume. And you're right, I'm not just decluttering this from my collection. But the problem is I have this bottle, this is the original, and then they sent me a bottle complimentary of their Elixir in the brand new packaging. They're exactly the same. The new packaging has pink crystals on the bottle. It's very beautiful. This rose gold bottle is stunning as well. And part of me does feel a little bit nostalgic, like because this is my first love from the brand, I should keep it. My heart tells me to keep it. My brain reminds me that you do not need two bottles of the exact same fragrance in your collection. So what I'm gonna do with this is gift it to a friend. I'm going to make sure all of these bottles are distributed to people who will love them and appreciate them, and they're not just going to sit on a shelf and rot and collect dust behind me. So this is going to go to a friend. I'm not sure who, but I will make sure that somebody gets this bottle and they're going to use it and they're going to love it. This is my oldest bottle, and there's barely a dent in it, and I love this fragrance. I would say this is one of the best fragrances in my entire collection. So that should show you just how difficult it really is to go through fragrances and use them, appreciate them, get wear out of them when your collection is just too big. I love Elixir. This is one of the best feminine fragrances. I've said multiple times that I feel like this fragrance was made for me. If I were making my own fragrance, it would be this. And then we have Taif Oud. This bottle is so beautiful. I love the gold plaque, the rhinestone cap. It is so stunning, and it is a very expensive fragrance. I remember when this launched, the brand sent this over complimentary, and I wanted to love it so much, but upon first impression, I sort of knew. I knew right away that this was not really right for me. It smells a little bit powdery, very mature, aldehydic. There is a really pretty oud note in there as well, but even as it dries down, it's nice. I like it, but I don't love it, and I honestly don't even like it as much as I would need to like it in order to justify holding on to it. It's not that it's terrible. I can actually appreciate the fragrance. It smells very luxurious. It smells expensive, but there's just no time, place, or occasion when I would go to wear this. If I'm getting really dressed up and I feel like this is a special occasion type of fragrance, there are probably 50 to 75 other fragrances in my collection that I would grab and I would be really excited to wear. This is not something that I would ever grab. Somebody else would grab it. Somebody else would really love it and appreciate it. So this really belongs in their home, not mine. Next, we have a very rare miss from Nest New York. This is the new Lychee Rose fragrance. When I first heard the name Lychee Rose, I thought, ooh, this is going to be amazing. I love Nest fragrances. It's not bad, but it is so strong. It's not what I expected at all. When I think of Lychee Rose, I think, ooh, this is going to be a fruity floral. It has lychee, maybe a little bit tropical, perfect for Miami. This smells very, very intense, and it's honestly a bit much for me. I gave it a proper shot. I've tried to wear this a couple times, and every time I spray it, I just think, ooh, that is not for me. That is not how I want to smell. I can't think of any other occasion that I would wear this. I think for Miami, it's just not quite right. If you live in a cold climate, maybe you'll appreciate this more than I do, but it's just too much. I have two more fragrances here from another one of my all-time favorite fragrance brands. I told you this was not easy. I had to be savage. This is Tom Ford Metalique and Tom Ford Electric Cherry. Now, Metalique, let's start with this one, is a nice fragrance. It's not bad. It's very unique. I find it to be really interesting. Interesting is not always how I want to smell. Very rarely, actually. And as I was going through my collection, I spotted this and I thought, I don't remember the last time I grabbed this fragrance or wore it. Electric Cherry I find to be really annoying because it has me sort of sitting on the fence. I think when it comes to fragrance, especially luxury, uber luxury fragrances that are so expensive, you cannot afford to sit on the fence. You either really love it or you don't. It's that simple. I love Lost Cherry so much. It's one of my all-time favorite fragrances. When they expanded the cherry collection, I was so excited. And I purchased these blind online. I purchased Electric Cherry and Cherry Smoke, the smaller bottles. And they keep raising the price. Even though this is only a 1 fluid ounce bottle, it's probably still a couple $100. For that amount of money, you have to love a fragrance. Electric Cherry is a little zingy. It has ginger. It's just not me. It's very medicinal. It has a very medicinal kind of synthetic cherry, cough syrupy ginger scent right away. And again, if there's a fragrance that I don't love initially and I have to wait a couple minutes for it to get good, I'm never going to be excited to grab it. This is just never going to compete with my favorite cherry fragrances. I'm so mad at myself that I bought this. Now, these were easy to pull out because they're duplicates. This is a giant bottle of Idol. I feel like this is larger than the bottle I have upstairs. But I'm currently using Lancome Idol as my bedtime scent. It smells very peaceful and very relaxing. So before I go to bed, I always spritz a little bit on the sheets, on my pillow, spritz it a little bit on my robe or my pajamas, and then I get into bed and I have very sweet dreams. I may end up holding on to this or just moving it upstairs. I'm not sure. I do feel like it's sort of silly to have 2 bottles of the same fragrance. That's the only reason I pulled this one. Same thing here with this. What is this one? This is a small bottle of La Vie Belle. I have a larger bottle of La Vie Belle. I also have the La Vie Belle Iris Absolute. So I don't need 3 bottles of La Vie Belle. That's all. It's just a coincidence, but I have a lot of groups of 2 or duos on the chopping block today. So I have 2 fragrances here from Ellis Brooklyn. I have 4 in my collection. I kept 2, and these are the 2 that I'm getting rid of. So I kept Sweet and Apple Love. That is my favorite fragrance from Ellis Brooklyn. It's so beautiful. But I decided to get rid of Super Amber and Florist because I don't grab for them. And they're just not all that exciting in my opinion. Super Amber, I've never really loved. I remember doing my initial impression and I could barely even smell it on the blotter. It's so light. It's a pretty fragrance, but I just can't smell it. And you think Super Amber, amber is usually more of a warm, sensual, bold fragrance or a moodier note. What I can smell, I really like, but I never really grabbed for this. And then Florist, even though it comes in this really cute neon pink bottle, I wanted to love it more than I do. It's just a little bit too simple, a little bit too singular. It smells like a bouquet of flowers. If you are very minimal with your fragrances, then you'll probably really like this. I mean, both of these are very nice, pleasant fragrances. I just have so many other floral fragrances that I'm going to grab over this. I have a similar situation with Unwi Nomad. I had 4 fragrances. I decided to keep 2 and then I'm going to let 2 of them go. And the 2 that I'm keeping are 2 of my favorite fragrances. This is one of my favorite niche brands. So I'm keeping Jardin de Misva. Of course, I talk about that fragrance a lot. It's one of the best. And then Sugar Leather, another one of the best fragrances in my collection. One of my favorite fragrance launches of the year last year. Sumo Oriental. This is really beautiful. It's very deep, moody, sort of caramelly, leathery. I think this is going to end up in my husband's fragrance collection. It's definitely unisex, but I think it maybe leans a little bit more masculine. I could probably layer it with something else if I really wanted to, but this is something that I would only ever grab when it's cold outside, which it very rarely is. I just feel like this is something my husband is going to love. And then Murmur de Dieu. This is a beautiful floral fragrance. It's so pretty, but I never wear it. And I think there are a lot of floral fragrances that I'm going to grab over this one. So I just feel like it would be a little bit silly to keep it in my collection. I would much rather save the space and give this to a good friend. This is something that I would give to somebody that I loved. Now, you know I love a sweet princessy perfume, but I have a couple picks here that I decided to declutter because they're maybe a little bit too sweet, if that's possible. This is Skyler Boardwalk Delight. It's basically cotton candy. I think there's maybe coconut milk in there as well. But it really does smell like cotton candy. Yeah, I think it's coconut milk and cotton candy. It's sweet, it's sugary, it's very pretty and princessy, and I honestly thought I might really like this and get a lot of wear out of it, but I just don't really grab it and I can't really see myself ever wearing this. It's maybe a little bit too a little bit too sweet, a little bit too youthful. The travel spray I'm gonna keep, but I just don't really see a place for the full-size bottle in my collection. This isn't something that I would ever wear on its own. I could maybe layer it with other things, but in that case, I think the travel spray works perfectly for me and my tastes, my purposes. Daisy Marc Jacobs Oh So Intense. I loved this when I first tried it. The strawberry is a very sweet, kind of candied, jammy strawberry. It's very cute, definitely princessy, but a little bit too young for me at this point. I just couldn't see myself ever grabbing this to wear anymore. When it first came out, I loved it. I did wear it. But now I just feel like I have so many other fragrances, and if I'm stepping out or I'm going out to dinner in Miami, I'm just not gonna grab this. Out of all of the fragrances I'm decluttering today, only 4 of them are designer fragrances. The rest are niche. I don't know what that says. Maybe it doesn't say anything. Maybe they're not as unique, but they're still incredibly wearable. I don't know. So I had the 2 Tom Ford fragrances and then these 2. This is Giorgio Armani My Way Floral and Angel Elixir. This was sent me in a PR package, I think last year. They sent me this giant bottle, and it's not a bad fragrance. I actually just sprayed it again to remind myself what it smelled like. It smells really nice, actually. But I don't feel like I need a giant bottle of Angel Elixir. I don't even have the original Angel in my collection. Angel is one of those fragrances that is so classic. That is one that I would like to have, just to have it. I don't feel a strong connection to Angel Elixir. I don't feel like this giant bottle belongs in my collection. It's not one that I would have ever sought out. I would never have purchased this for myself. As pleasant and pretty as I think it is, and the more I smell it, the more I'm starting to backpedal. I just don't know where this fits in. And because it was sent to me and I didn't fall in love with it and purchase it, I don't really remember it. I could sort of just forget that it even exists. And then My Way Floral is another really nice fragrance. I don't have anything bad to say about it. The problem is I have so many My Ways from Armani. I have the original, of course. I have My Way Intense and the My Way Parfum. And this would be my least favorite out of all of them. I haven't tried My Way Nectar yet. That's the one that comes with the pink cap. I don't feel like I need to have them all. I think visually it looks nice to see a complete set, but I've said this before, I really do not like feeling like I'm walking into a department store. When I walk in this room and I see my fragrance wall, I actually get a little bit anxious. I feel overwhelmed by seeing all of the fragrances and seeing all of the brands and, the entire line of My Way fragrances. It's too much. In a store, it looks beautiful because that's a boutique for lots of people. I don't want to feel like I have a boutique and I'm sort of clocking in back in the beauty department when I walk in this room. That very typical peak 2016 YouTuber beauty room space setup that looks like a boutique, I find it to be very impersonal and very cold. I don't like it. I don't connect with it at all. So I'm trying to do away with that. I think I had a little bit of that in the apartment. This room, I don't really judge simply because I haven't really set it up properly yet. It's taken me a long time. But eventually I want to get rid of these bookcases. I want to pare down my collection so much that I can put a really pretty armoire or some sort of china cabinet, something that looks a little bit more warm and welcoming. I'd like to use that as storage, and I want it to have doors that close or windows that I can maybe put some fabric, something to cover them. That way I don't see all of the fragrances in the background. I think it looks sort of messy. I do receive comments sometimes. They say all of those fragrances in the background are really distracting, and I completely agree. I hate my setup right now. These are a few more fragrances that I will most likely gift to my mother. I have gifted her quite a few fragrances over the years, but her collection is about to get a lot bigger. I have a Flores London fragrance here. This is Lily Eau de Toilette. I believe this was a new launch last year. It's very pretty floral fragrance. very singular. I wouldn't even say it smells like a bouquet of flowers. It sort of just smells like fresh lilies. Same with Sonic Flower from room 1015. It's a really pretty floral. This one actually does have a little pizzazz to it as well. It's beautiful. I don't have a bad word to say about it. I don't really grab it. When it comes to floral fragrances, I think what it is, if I'm grabbing a floral, maybe for spring, summer, and I'm looking for a daytime fragrance, I want something more along the lines of Elixir from Roja. I would say that's my type of floral fragrance. Versus this, that doesn't really have anything fruity. There's no vanilla. There's no underlying something else to really zhuzh it up. It's just flowers, like a flower explosion. I appreciate it, but it's not really my style of floral to begin with, so I don't really grab it. Now, this is a fragrance I have talked about before. I have included it on favorites lists and best of lists. Floral Street Sunflower Pop. This was one of my favorite citrusy fragrances for a while. It's very happy, it's a mood booster, and it truly does smell sunny. I've been very transparent that citrusy notes and citrus fragrances are not my favorite. I've learned to love them, and I think over the years I've acquired quite a few citrusy fragrances that I actually do really love. And I think now, because I do have other options, that I'm just not really going to grab this as a bright, happy, citrusy floral. I'm gonna grab something else instead. This is very niche. This was sent to me complimentary a while back. It's called Hugh from Kiyoko. I believe she's an influencer. I didn't know the influencer. I didn't know the brand. I didn't really know anything about this. It's not a bad scent, but it's also not really a standout. It's not something that I'm gonna be really excited to wear. So I think I did mention this in a video once and haven't touched it since. So I would rather rehome it. These also deserve a second life. This is Nosamato Extrait de Parfum Narcotic V and Flamenco. Flamenco used to be one of my favorites, and I still think it smells amazing. The problem is when it dries down, it's a little bit too smoky on my skin now. Maybe my nose has developed a sensitivity to it. I'm not sure. It's so sexy, very seductive. But as soon as that fruitiness dissipates, what's left lingering on the skin is maybe a little bit too smoky, woody, dark, earthy notes. And for some reason, my nose is just very sensitive to those types of notes. I have a similar issue with Carmina. I've actually heard people describe that fragrance as light and fluffy and fruity, and I cannot help but think that maybe I'm going crazy because when I smell that fragrance, all I get is this, there's something harsh. I need to figure out what note it is. I need to identify it so that I know what to look out for. But I kind of get the same feeling with this in that it's so harsh that I feel like I can't even take a full deep breath. And this is the final fragrance from the first cut. This is Commodity Gold Personal. And the reason I'm getting rid of this one, I believe at one point I had all three. I think the Gold Intense, or the most intense version, I forget the name, is in my husband's collection. And then Gold Expressive is in my current collection. I really like this one, but my favorites from Commodity are the Gold Expressive and Rain. That's another one of my favorites. Commodity Gold Personal is a little bit too light. I was comparing them earlier and I could barely smell this. I could see why somebody would really like it and where there would be a place in someone's collection for a fragrance like this, but it's maybe a little bit too personal. Like, I want other people to be able to smell me a little bit. This is more of a light body splash, body mist, barely there type of scent. And if I'm going with something like this, and if you're not familiar with Gold, Gold is basically vanilla, I would probably choose maybe one of my Sol de Janeiro body mists. That way it's a little bit more fun, funky, flirty, definitely going to have a little bit more projection. This is maybe a little bit too soft. I love the expressive. The personal is nice, but I don't really feel like I need to keep both in my collection, especially because I am trying to make room. And that completes today's declutter. I didn't hit my goal of 50 fragrances, but I got rid of 24 full-size fragrances, which is a pretty good start. Truthfully, I'm coming off of a pretty bad head cold. My nose is still not working 100%, so I didn't want to go through and start judging my fragrances too harshly until I can properly smell them again. But I will be going through doing a second pass over my fragrances, and this is just the beginning of my spring cleaning. I want to go back through fragrances, my makeup collection, my jewelry collection, my closet, and of course I will be sharing it all with you guys. So thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it and you found it interesting to see what I'm getting rid of first. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Leave me your comments, questions down below. As always, I will be linking everything mentioned. Everything on my face will be down below in the description box for your convenience. And for more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell.